Hello, welcome to another episode of the Fit Fatherhood podcast. It's Tuesday night, as usual. My name is Zach Bush, and you might notice that again, it is just me. Nathaniel was supposed to be back yesterday. He had a little bit of travel problems, so once again, you are stuck with me. So, for everybody who is here for Nathaniel, I apologize in advance. You will have to just listen to me for the next 15 or 20 minutes. That being said, we are here to recap the challenge that we just finished up, 5-week challenge. For anybody who has not been following along, or this is the first episode that they're seeing, first video they're seeing, we did a 5-week challenge with our school community of just all dads working on building nice foundational habits centered around health and fitness. So quick recap, week 1 was a time and food audit. So what are we doing throughout the day and what are we eating throughout the day? Week 2 was a water consumption habit, making sure we hit a certain target. Then we had exercise, adding 30 to 45 minutes of exercise in. Week 4 was adding some veggies in. We were shooting for 2 meals throughout the day, having extra veggies. Didn't matter what or how you prepared them, but just kind of getting those in. And then the last week was focusing on that family time, right? We're all dads. So how can we add in that really most important aspect of everything on top of all the stuff that we built? That being said, you hear from me a lot. We have a special guest here tonight who is one of our members of the school community who has done the challenge with us. So I will bring him on right now. Our special guest is Jim McGugan. Jim, thank you for coming on.
Hey, Zach, how are you?
Good. So I just gave a recap, but why don't you give everybody kind of, why you joined the challenge, and if you want to introduce yourself a little bit too. This is
Sure.
a dad's podcast, so, a little information about yourself and then why you hopped into the challenge.
Yeah, I don't know if I can speak as well as Nathaniel is. I'm sure he's missed much more. I don't know if I could take his place, but I'm Jim McGugan. I've known Zach for a little bit. I used to belong to the CrossFit Generation with some of the other folks there. I've got a recent 3-year-old. He just turned 3 on Christmas Day, so that was we're still debating on how to figure out his birthday, whether we do a half birthday party in the summertime because everyone's busy on his birthday. So I mean, he's only 3; he doesn't necessarily know yet, but he's starting to. And as soon as we have to figure that out pretty soon. But no, as far as the challenge, I mean, I was invited to Fit Fatherhood. I felt a bit missing. There was a little bit of a hole, right? So finding this community and finding communities similar to this since JJ was born, I kind of felt like I was on autopilot. And then that autopilot really became the new normal.
Mhm.
So as soon as the invite came, I was like, oh, let's check this out. And I joined the community, and now there's 25 members or so that interact daily. And the challenge just gave us another competitive edge and a competitive way to break that norm. So for me, that autopilot that became the norm, the challenge helped break that. So I felt it was a great 5 weeks, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly enjoyed it. I like what you said about how, you kind of got stuck in a little bit of a rut. You had moved and you had left the gym, which you had built a community in, and
Yeah.
that kind of left you in a rut, which I get that happens, and that more importantly that rut became like the new norm, like how
The
quickly
norm.
it
Yeah.
is to shift into just like whatever you change into, and it just kind of stays really easily really quickly.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that you jumped in and joined the group and super active in the group and super fun, and that's why we started, because it is so easy to get caught up in all the other aspects of life, especially once you have a kid. Right now it's the kid, the wife, like the job, all that different things, that some of the things that you should be doing for yourself, like working on your fitness, going to the gym and eating well, it's easy to kind of let that stuff slide while you're trying to take care
Absolutely.
of everybody else.
Yeah, and
So
and you're right. I mean, it comes to taking care of everybody else, and that's the biggest part of it. You put
mhm.
yourself to the side, or you put yourself last, rather than prioritizing your own health and your own fitness.
Yeah, and I think it's common for, the women in our lives to do that, the wives, the moms, they're,
Mhm.
that's more well known as like, hey, they put everybody else first then. But I think, and it's changed over the last, few decades, at least from what I can tell, with some studies that I've seen where like how more, millennials and kids, people our age are changing diapers and being more a part of it than dads used to be. But, you
Yeah,
know, we start doing the same thing that moms have always been known to do, to take care of themselves and kind of put everybody else, or take care of everybody else first and not take care of
take
themselves.
care
So
of themselves.
that's why we started this. That's why we wanted to do it. And we're super happy to have, people like you and,
Yeah,
Jeff McGugan and a couple other guys that are really, really active in it. It's been fun. So we appreciate you guys coming in for that. So the
oh,
chat,
good. No, thanks. Yeah.
you you came in and you're doing that. So I talked about the 5 weeks that we went through. You were very active in it, liked doing it. What were some things that were easier for you, and then some things that were harder for you, and were either of those surprising for you?
Yeah. I mean, the most eye-opening was actually the first week. Doing that time and food audit and just having it up on a screen in front of me was every half hour checking in with myself, being a little more mindful of what I'm consuming, what I did that half hour, how much wasted time is throughout the day. It was it was pretty eye-opening. I would probably say like between that and the last week were probably the two most difficult. Um, One because week one was new, and trying to now add something different into my rhythm made it a little difficult at first. But then as I started moving along through the first week, I was like, it's pretty straightforward. But I kind of felt bad because I was like, how much wasted time really is there in the day? And how much time am I not sleeping? And
Hmm.
it really was eye opening. The last one, like week 5, was disconnecting from myself and spending more time with family. Right, 30 minutes a day. You think, oh, anybody can do this, but I get so wrapped up at work. I get so wrapped up at home. There's always something to fix around the house. There's always something to do. Being able to put my phone down and disconnect and spend time with JJ and Jamie was awesome. Um, like it was probably week one was the hardest. Week 5 was probably the most rewarding, but both like trying to pull away from myself to spend time and be present. And I think that was one of the main ideas of the challenge, right? Just being present for yourself and for everybody else. As far as I think you asked about the hardest and the easiest, right? So the easiest was water, right? I carry around a 64-ounce bottle of carry around a 64-ounce jug of water. I get all kinds of crazy looks at work. But filling that up twice a day is a gallon for me. So I try to do one before lunch and one after lunch.
Hmm.
It's pretty easy to drink one bottle of water. It just so happens that bottle is 64 ounces.
Hmm. I think it's funny too, like just hearing that because, for you, something like water is super easy. And not that the family stuff was hard. I think more importantly, the family thing was the be focused and be present. That's the
Right.
hard part of it. It's not the
Yeah.
family time, right? I mean, I'm sure you sit down and have dinners and,
Oh
you're
yeah,
hanging out
absolutely.
a ton, but it's the being present and not letting oh, I should be doing this, or I see this in the house that needs to get done, or I know this work deadline's coming up, and just like letting that other stuff come in. That's the hard part. I struggle with that as well. That's certainly the hardest part for me. And so I like that. But somebody else. It's funny because somebody else might have no problem shutting everything else out and focusing on the family, or going to the gym an hour every day, no problem. But the water, like they just can't seem to drink even like one 30-ounce bottle of water. So
Yeah.
it's interesting to see what the different
Different
people.
different perspectives, right? Totally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it wasn't necessarily spending time with my wife and son. Like I love
Yeah.
the time I spent, but it's putting my phone in the other room and being
Exactly.
present and not paying attention, taking my
Hmm.
watch off so that I don't get pinged. My
Hmm.
watch doesn't vibrate when somebody needs me or I get a message or an email or something. Right? It was actually being present in the moment. So yeah, totally.
Yeah, exactly. We're conditioned to you hear it vibrate, you hear it ding. It's like you have that conditioning of just being like, oh, it went off. I need to see what it is right away. And it's
Yeah.
like 99% of the time, it's
It's
completely
useless.
unimportant. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why we do, you mentioned the time audit of having that up, and every half hour kind of being like, what did I do? And one of those things to just be more mindful of, or you become more mindful of like where you're spending time at. Or it's like, if I'm not getting enough sleep, like, is there a half an hour sometime throughout the day that I was probably scrolling or doing something that I wasn't really getting me further, that I could get some other work done, which will allow me to be more present with my family, or allow me to get to the gym because I was able to focus and get more stuff done in a shorter amount of
Right.
time. Like, that's the point of it, is just to be more mindful. It's not necessarily to change anything, but it sounds like that kind of was helpful, and was just like, oh, okay, like,
For
yeah, I
sure.
could probably clean some stuff up here and there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just being aware, and it's increasing that awareness and mindfulness, right? It's not necessarily in the first week is getting accustomed to it, and it's not necessarily about building consistency and building the discipline that I feel like I got a lot of at the back end of it. But it was more just saying, hey, you're right. There is an extra half hour here that I'm sitting on my phone and scrolling. I should be logged into work. I should be working, or something comes up and I end up talking to somebody in a chat for 5 or 10 minutes where I could be doing something much more productive.
Hmm. Hmm. So what was your sounds like there was a few, but what was like the biggest takeaway that you got from it?
It was so I'd probably say over the 5 weeks, it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't about building consistency and discipline. It was about doing a little bit better each day. And we've talked about this a few times in some of the coffee and tea hours, right? But it's 1% better every day is compounds so
Hmm.
quickly. But even like even if you think on a smaller scale than that, 0.1% better every day is still a step forward in the right direction.
Hmm.
You're still getting better each day. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways, right? So we were kind of posting food in the chat in the community. We were posting water consumption, and a little bit of it was a healthy competition. I was like, oh, Ben's getting 64 ounces. I can do 128, or Jeff's got 160 ounces, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I could beat 160. Um, but so it was a little bit of healthy competition in there. But in the same aspect, it was just a competition within myself as well. But a little bit better each day compounds over that year. Um, not, I mean, aside from the challenge, the coffee and tea hours that are in the community are so rewarding to me. I mean, I don't want to divert a little bit from the
No.
challenge, um, but I try to take a part in it every week. I try to spend the hour, as much of the hour as I possibly can. We have a very small, and I would call it a relatively tight knit community that comes every hour for the coffee and tea hour. I mean, I call it a coffee hour. I think Nathaniel's the only one drinking tea in those
He is,
hours.
yeah.
I could bust on him in a minute because he's not here. So
Yeah, I love those too, and we get the biggest turnout for those calls. And I think we're all working on different things, health and fitness wise, but a lot of us have that decent consistency, like you kind of mentioned, where like the challenge was good to help reinforce that, but it wasn't
mhm,
necessarily the focus, at least not for you, not for me necessarily either. It was just kind of like that healthy competition. Let's do some stuff. Let's have some fun in the group. But those Friday calls are super fun because it's just hanging out. Like, we talk
right,
about some serious stuff, right? We talk about different businesses, and it's all over the place what everybody's working on. So it's not meant to be a coaching call. It's not anything like that. It's just like, hey, let's hang out. And like, there's usually like 5 to 7 of us kind of
yeah.
hopping on and off throughout the hour. So I love those too. And that's really what it's all about, is
Yeah, and it's
building
not.
those.
You're right. It's not showing up from 9 to 10 on the dot. It's showing up when it fits your schedule. You got a call that ends at 9:15 or so. You hop on for a few minutes between 9:15 and 9:30, and just kind of shoot the stuff and have a good time with some guys.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So, kind of wrapping things up on the challenge, like, what is
Sure.
there anything, that you're working on or wanting to work on moving forward from the challenge?
Yeah, and I kind of hit the consistency aspect a few times, right? And I think that's one of the biggest things. And it was funny. I listened to a podcast today, and it was the CEO of Airbnb was on there, and he made a statement, and it was building life one rep at a time. And I felt it was perfect for the school community, right? Fit fatherhood as a community. Like, you're building your life 1 week at a time, one day at a time, I mean, you could even go a few hours at a time. But it was funny that he said you're building your life one rep at a time. And I was like, oh, it's perfect for the fitness aspect of this group. But that part of it is coming out. Being more mindful of things around me, people around me, being more mindful of my own time, and building that discipline. Like, I haven't picked up a book in 12 years, maybe,
Mhm.
and like there's book recommendations that are coming out of this group, and not necessarily coming out of the challenge directly, but I bought myself a Kindle, right? I'm trying to get involved in it.
Mhm.
If I can mesh my two lives together, and technology and a little bit of reading, maybe I'll gamify it a little bit and have some fun trying to get the percentage up on the book that I'm reading. And I think, Zach, it might have been you that recommended the Daily Dad book,
Mhm.
and I got it, and it sits next to my desk here, and I read it every morning before work. So it just helps me be present a little bit, and actually disconnect
Mhm.
before the workday. I can reread it afterwards, and disconnect a little bit after the workday. So yeah, I felt a lot of that. Like, so
Yeah,
I
complete.
appreciate. I'm sorry to cut you off. I
No, yeah.
appreciate the time both you and Nathaniel, spent putting this together, the challenge, the school community, and we talk a lot about fathers and fit fatherhood. But I mean, it's it's a it's a family show, right? It's a family
Mhm.
aspect. Like, Kate and Brittany on Nathaniel's side, like, they're so supportive of you guys building this community.
Mhm.
So it does take a village.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, me and Nathaniel work on it together, but this just having support means the world. I mean, I know, you know, I'm sure we all have support, and
Yeah,
that means more than anything in my eyes. Is
sure.
like all the different ideas, all the different things that I do and want to do, and all that stuff. It's just like, yeah, go for it, do it. Like it's nice to have that. I'm super grateful and fortunate to have that support, where it's just kind of unconditional support. Like, okay, what do I need to do? And it took a little while to work through it, right? Like, hey, Tuesday, Thursday nights, like I have coaching calls, so like I'll do bath time, but you got to do bedtime, and it's just having that
Right.
communication that took a little while to kind of figure out. Is like, all right, let's have the communication. Like, let me say, here's the times that I need, and figuring that stuff out. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's
especially the evenings get so busy when you've got a little one, right? Between, it's like dinner, bath, bed, and it's
mhm,
one after another after another. And even like, I'm here, right? Jamie's putting JJ in a bath right now and starting bedtime. So it's a matter of like, all right, I need this 45 minutes or this hour here. It's once a week,
yeah.
and just take the time, and we figure it out, communicate. You're right.
Yeah. Yeah, and you need that for yourself and to kind of
Sure.
reset, and that way you can go back to them and be recharged, ready to go and all that. Like it's, that's what's important. I think a good relationship recognizes the need for that, right? And everybody does
Yeah.
that their own different way. Kate finds her reset a different way than I do. And this is where I get my energy and my joy and coming in and helping them, hanging out with the guys. And,
Hmm.
it's more productive than, going out to a bar all night or, playing video games all night. Right. But there's a place for that. I certainly have times where I do that too, but
Oh,
it's
for
not
sure.
what does it for me.
Yeah. There's times to disconnect completely, and then there's times to disconnect and do something that brings you joy and happiness.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned the Daily Dad book. Yeah, if anybody struggles
Yeah.
with reading consistently, like, oh, I haven't read a book since middle school, like I hate books, whatever. Like that's a good one to really, yeah, build the consistency. It's
When I said it was right next to me, it really was.
it's it's a page a day, right? Each date has its own page, and it's literally most of the time it's not even close to a page.
No,
It's
it's like two paragraphs a day, really.
Yeah, it's a couple minutes. So if reading is something you want to get into, and I highly recommend it, even if it's fiction books, like it really just, if reading something you want to do, it's a good way to build a consistency and get started. For me, it's a way to learn different things for sure. I read the self-development books and the business books, the mindset books and all that. But every night before I go to bed, I read a fiction book, a fun book where like otherwise my mind will race. It'll run, run, run. And like that, the reading just lets it just focus on one thing that is really like not a real world, but it's fun. It puts me to sleep. So the Daily Dad book's great for not only kind of giving you perspective and kind of helping you give little daily wisdom things for being a dad, but to build that consistency of reading.
Hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to keep you too long. I know that you have your family to attend to. I appreciate you coming on. Any closing remarks before I let you go and wrap this thing up?
I mean, I think I closed it out a little bit ago when I said thank you
Yeah.
to both you and Nathaniel for putting the community together, putting the challenge together. I would recommend anybody watching, or anybody who sees the replay of it, check out the school community. There's a bunch of fathers. Some of us are more fit than others, but we're all working towards a common goal. And it's mindfulness, it's consistency, it's discipline, and come hang out. It's, I mean, I'll plug the community, but I mean, I can appreciate Zach, yourself, and Nathaniel, and you guys are starting to build something tremendous here. So I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It means a lot to both of us. I know I can speak for Nathaniel on that, for you guys coming in
Mhm.
and being a part of it. So yeah, we love it. We enjoy it. So that being said, yeah, join the Fit Fatherhood school community. We have a free Facebook group too. If you want to just kind of jump in that, it gives you a little taste on what we are about in the school community. But the school community, you get access to, the extra calls on Thursday nights and Friday mornings and all the little mini challenges we do. So, jump in, join either of those. And as usual, thank you everybody for listening, both present and in the future. And Jim, I appreciate you spending the last half hour with me and kind of
You got it.
recapping and giving your experience and perspective on the group.
Thank you. All right. Enjoy, Zach. I appreciate it. Have a good day.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
All right.